Hey y'all, hi. I accidentally shopped at the Sephora sale for the first time in years. In decades, it feels like, but it's not. It's like 5 years, maybe since my no-buy year, before my no-buy year, 6 years. I customarily skip the Sephora sale because I feel like the Sephora sale creates an external and an internal environment of excitement about buying things that you otherwise wouldn't buy. And with only a 15 or 20% savings, really you're just spending money that you otherwise wouldn't spend. It's not actually savings. I've talked about this at great length. I have actually like a playlist of videos about sales and the Sephora sale, explaining why to me it's not a savings event. It's like an overspending event. And so for years I skipped it and talked about why I was skipping it on YouTube. And then I started just skipping it and skipping talking about it on YouTube. I was just like, it's a nothing to me. It's a non-entity. And that is why I didn't even know that it was going on when I accepted the invitation of my wonderful friend Stephanie to go to brunch and swing by Sephora this past weekend. And it happened to be the sale. And when we got there, I was like, oh. But I bought a couple of things for review that I would have bought anyway if I had been at Sephora with Stephanie, but that I might not have bought if I hadn't gone physically to Sephora with Stephanie. And that's what's interesting about it. That's what's exciting. I'm going to talk about them. I also learned a lot at Sephora. I took pictures. I surveyed our domain, and I'm here to report back about some products that I got to see in person for the first time. So it's a little bit story time, a little bit haul, a little bit try on haul, a little bit first impressions. If you're new, welcome to my YouTube channel. I make beauty and fashion videos, talk about aesthetics. I'm also a writer. I have a prize-winning book of poetry on Amazon. I will link it in the description box down below. And let us now get into the meat of this video. So Stephanie is also a content creator in the beauty space. She goes by Beauty Unhyped on Instagram, and she is so knowledgeable, so delightful to follow, and does a thing that I don't really understand yet how to do. She packs really detailed, high quality reviews into Instagram content. I feel like I'm able to do that on YouTube, but less able to do it on Instagram. Instagram is more just like visual, aesthetic playground vibes. But Stephanie, it's like I'm always learning things about the products, and she has her finger on the pulse of what's going on in beauty, which is why it was so great to go to Sephora with her, because she kept being like, oh, here's this, oh, here's that. Whereas I haven't been in a Sephora in a real way in like a couple of years. And I walked in and I was like sensory overload, like really overwhelmed. Stephanie was kind of my guide. But the first thing that we did, as soon as we walked in, she was like, is there anything you want to see? And I was like, yeah, I want to see if those Patrick Ta eyeshadows are in the store. And she was like, they are. And my friends, I got one largely because I feel like this is a great idea for something to review on YouTube, because I feel like it's been a little bit contentious, and I had a lot to say in New Makeup Hot Takes about this launch. I saw it and I was like, yeah, this makes sense for me to talk about on YouTube. I'm going to put it on right now. But also there were only like 3 left in the display. It was very like scarcity mindset vibes. There were only 3 left in any of the colors, and one of the colors that was there is the only one that I really liked once I saw them all in person. For me, the only one I really liked for me, and there was only one of it. So you know when that happens in Sephora, you're like, I have to get it. It's fate. That happened. So it's the Patrick Ta Major Dimension Eye Illusion Eyeshadow Duo in the shade Still at the Club. The packaging, as ever, is exquisite, very polished, and we've got, to me, the perfect duo, a neutral bronze that has some shimmer. So it's not matte, but it's not high voltage. It's just like that perfect finish. It's a neutral amount of shimmer. You know what I mean? Like not too shiny, not too matte, just enough to make it hopefully blend well. And then the other one is this alluring brown pigment with really shiny silver mixed in. So it has sort of a multichromatic feel, not actually, but you know, it's like a slight shifting feel, but very wet look. This is a drenched looking gleam, both in basically the only color that I like to wear on my eyes anymore. 2 is all I feel like I need these days. They feel like red carpet makeup, honestly. They don't feel hyperpigmented. They don't feel like art supplies in that way. They don't feel like Natasha Denona. This isn't giving me Pat McGrath. It's giving Tom Ford, you know? And I'm kind of here for that. I got this impulsively because I was like, this is what we're doing, right? Stephanie and I are here. We're getting makeup with which to make content. That was what the trip was about. It's like, let's go to Sephora and go on a little work shopping trip. And it just was the most logical thing. I got it and I was like, this makes the most sense for me to make content with. But now I'm like, just having swatched it, I'm like, I might love it and not just make a video with it. And I did swatch it in store. That was part of why I decided to get it. I'll show you the pictures of the display. And Stephanie swatched a couple of the other ones. And you can see they're all really pretty. I mean, the light in Sephora, the light that they put on displays like this is, I feel like, designed to make it sparkle and spangle the most. When we swatched them in the store, we were like, What I've heard, word on the street, is that there are some different, it was Tom who told me, Haute Mess Tom. They told me that there are different formulas in different compacts. So it's almost like an eyeshadow palette with a bunch of different formulas broken up over a bunch of different duos. I think Tom has 3 of them, and I'm sure they've done a review somewhere, and I'll link it below. Maybe it'll be Instagram, YouTube, maybe both. Which is just to say that what I'm saying about these formulas and what I'm about to discover when I put them on my eyes might not be true of the other ones. And you can kind of tell that in the picture of Stephanie's swatches next to my swatches in store. But you know what? Before we go on, I want to get something on my lips, and look what I, against all odds and expectations, bought. I don't like sets. I don't like minis. And until recently, I didn't like the kinds of lip balms that squeeze out of a tube. I liked the bullet format. I've really been converted, though, to the type that squeeze out of the tube. But still, this is a set of the minis. It's the Summer Fridays, the Mini Neutrals Lip Butter Balm set. The thing is, though, the thing that convinced me is that I am so into this kind of thing right now, little lip balms that squeeze out of a tube, that I'm always trying to find one. And I feel like it's often like the one I want is in my other bag, or the one I want is downstairs and I'm upstairs. The idea of having small versions of this type of thing, which I feel like the delivery mechanism isn't compromised by the small size of something like this. The tip, I assume, is full size, and it's just the tube is shorter. So it doesn't have the same issue that most minis have, which is that it's just not a satisfying experience because it's a miniature version of the packaging. Yeah, they are just like really short versions of the full size of each one of these. I'm gonna like having 4 of these so that there can be like one in every bag. And it's for just $25, whereas getting 4 full-size ones would be so much more of any brand that I like, you know? So that was what sold me. And then also the color, it's like a clear and 3 shades of brown, all of which are equally beautiful. So I'm gonna put one on and then I'll lip swatch all of them at the end once I have more makeup on. All right, this one is Vanilla Beige. I squeezed it and all that came out was oil. It's separated. So I tried to squeeze more to like get the oil out and get to some pigment, and like little chunks of pigment came out embedded in the oil. Not a good start. Trying to mix it up. I squeezed all the air out and then I put the cap back on and now I'm trying to mix it up. It worked. Okay. It worked. I mixed it up and now it's just like pigmented again. I will be curious to see if that happens with all of them or if that was just a fluke, but we'll find out at the end of the video when I lip swatch all of them. The formula is great, very reliable, and it has like a mild vanilla flavor. At least this one, Vanilla Beige, has that. Okay, let's get into the Patrick Ta. Actually, before we do, let's get into the other thing that I got. I only got 3 things. That's why it's like, it's still a haul, right? I can still call it a haul. This one might consider to have been an unwise purchase, but we were there, it was the moment, and I got it partly so that I could talk about why it is a bit of a dubious choice to get this, but also kind of why I got it anyway. The Merit Brow 1990 Sheer Gel Pencil in the shade Brown Black. They sent this to me when it first launched. I love the color. It's like the exact color of my eyebrows when they're dyed, which they are right now. They're pretty recently dyed. I love the texture. It goes on perfectly, very precise, tiny little tip. I'm just gonna do a tiny bit of filling in. I love the pigment level. It's like slightly transparent, and it really ends up looking like hair strokes. It's impossible to overdo. You can really draw on a nice sculpted brow, but without it looking too heavy. I love the way my brows look when I use this. And because of that, when I first got it, I used it assiduously every single day, and I hadn't dyed my brows in a long time, so they were pretty light. So I was using a lot of pencil in my brows every single day. And because I liked how they looked so much, I didn't then dye my brows during that time. I was really leaning heavily on the pencil, and I used it up in like 2 weeks, which is a little bit circumstantial. I'm hoping I'll make this one last longer because now that I know to use a lighter hand, to dye my brows and just supplement with it, etc., not to go so hard with it because I know how quickly it will go if I do that. But mostly, I think it's not user error. Mostly it's just like a product that doesn't have very many uses in it because the little thin tip is so tiny. I think the amount of product is so tiny and probably a lot of product transfers. And because it's so sheer, you kind of end up using more to get the look. And so it just doesn't last very long. And I've seen some comments to the same effect. It's not just me. You know, for me, in a vacuum, just in my own life, this wouldn't be a smart purchase in terms of cost per use. It's like an extremely high price item for cost per use. It's really luxury. And if I'd been spending my own money instead of my channel's budget for review, I would have been going way out on a limb to buy this. And you should know that. But because I'm not in a vacuum, I'm here on YouTube reviewing products. It made sense for me to get it, to have this moment and tell you all about it. And I cannot tell a lie. I'm so happy that I have it. I'm sitting here like effortlessly. I'm not even holding a mirror up close to my face. I'm just looking in the far away mirror and effortlessly managing to define the front of my brows without over or underdoing it. It's just such a pleasure to use. So I'll enjoy it while I can. Okay, so there's the Merit pencil in, and now I'm going to set my brows in place with a little bit of this Kimiko brow gel. And frankly, if Kimiko was carried at Sephora, I probably would have gotten the Kimiko pencil in black tea instead of the Merit because it's just as easy to use and has just as good of a result, but it lasts a lot longer. It doesn't get used up in 2 weeks. So I'll link that down below too, even though it's not at Sephora. Okay, I hope those actually are even. It's a little bit hard to do brows on camera. It's hard to be focused and detail oriented enough to make sure that they're even without just wanting to move on because it's like the most boring part of doing makeup for someone else, you know, or in front of someone else. So forgive me if they look, is this wonky? I was like, oh, I'm getting them so even. And now I feel like this one comes down a lot further. In the mirror, they look fine. And in the camera, they look uneven. But if I've learned anything in 6 years on YouTube, it's that the camera and the mirror are both liars. All right, I'm just gonna leave it. I'm sorry if it looks uneven. Let's move on to the Patrick Ta. So I'm gonna use this Alter Ego eyeshadow primer. And while that sets, I'm gonna open these new brushes. I'm so glad I'm getting a chance to use these. They might not even be that new from REFR because they went to my old address and it took me a long time to be able to go and pick them up. But they're relatively new from REFR. The note from Tom at REFR says, this new collection is called shodō, named after the art of Japanese calligraphy. The shodō brushes have a unique fiber structure that allows you to apply and blend using the side of the brush while easily getting precision, engaging the tip of the brush. And you can see they are sort of tapered all the way down the sides. It's like the brushes have razor cut shag haircuts, you know? It's like the tips of the hairs all around are more dynamic, you know what I mean? Like very dimensional. It'll be interesting to see how these work. I'm gonna do what I would naturally do with this, which is to take the dark brown, put it on the center and blend it out, and then put the other one on kind of as a topper. Okay, first impression, these brushes are amazing. I stuck down the shadow and then I went in to start blending and I had that eye primer on. It felt a little sticky and I was like, oh my gosh, it's not gonna blend. It's just gonna stick. It's gonna make like a shape. It's gonna be patchy. And I just went in and started really pressing pretty hard, right? Really making use of the brush. And wow, did it ever do its job. And I mean, it's also a testament to the formula, I think, but I really feel the efficacy of like having the tips of the hairs of the brushes all shaved like down the side, you know? And then when I went in to pick up a little more powder with the brush, just like all REFR brushes, it picked up the powder so beautifully, just perfectly. I had a panic moment where I was like, I don't know how to do eyeshadow anymore. It's going to end up looking terrible. And then what I feel like happened is that the brush saved me. And it's just beautiful. It's like this plummy brown and it blended out to a little bit of a sheen, but it's not high voltage. There's just enough pearl in it, it feels, to get it to blend beautifully. So that's like a very basic application. I'm going to use the shodō 00, just the tip of it, to put some on the lower lash line. The tip is kind of wispy. These brushes remind me a little bit of a calligraphy brush shaped Surratt brush that I once had. It was very different and could work, but it's kind of hard to work with. But these are really easy to work with. Just really dynamic. It's cool. Yeah, so the softness of the brush tip of the shodō brush gave a pretty light and dispersed application of the eyeshadow underneath my eyes. I think that it's working both for the eyeshadow color and for the kind of look that I like. I like it to be pretty diffused, pretty effortless looking. The topper is the one, well, I don't know if it's supposed to be a topper, but the shiny one is the one that I'm the most excited about. I'm gonna put it on with my finger. Yeah, I love this. This is to me perfect. This is to me the perfect eye makeup. It's like the perfect one and done eye, but it's fun because there are two, you know, so you can mix it up a little bit. There's a broader dynamic range than just a one and done. This looks to me like the exact dupe, and this is like callback to OG viewers we've been here for a really long time. I had this love, this like all-time best eyeshadow that I had depotted from the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette. It was the shade 24/7, I think. And it was just like this, the top one here. It had color underneath and then it had all of this wet look shine in it. Layering this on top of the one underneath, I'm getting the exact one and done grungy wet look that I got with Jaclyn Hill 24/7. Like this is the closest dupe that we've ever come across to that original favorite of all time eye look. And I didn't put it together that this might offer that. I didn't expect that. And I'm so happy to have her back. And in this beautiful format, no less. Wow, I'm so happy with this. I want to put on a little eyeliner. I just happen to have this Mink Greige eyeliner from Sweed here. That's the color. Mink Greige, a color after my own heart. It's so pretty. So I just put a little bit of that on my waterline, like the lower lash line to fill it in. And now I'm going to clean up the fallout underneath my eyes and apply a touch of the REFY concealer in the shade 01. This is the only product that I went to Sephora with my mind on preposition. This is the only product that I intended to buy when I went to Sephora with Stephanie. I was like, I would love to go to Sephora with you. I need to replace the REFY concealer in the shade 01 because I've essentially used it up and it is to me the product of the year, I believe. My favorite product of this year. I love it so much. I love the color so much, but they didn't have it in store. This is my old one. I still haven't replaced it. But because it's what I intended to buy, I'm still going to use it on camera here. And also it's what I want to apply. I did get a meaningful amount of fallout from that Patrick Ta eyeshadow, maybe because I was slathering it on with a brush like that, but that's just something to take note of. I will, when I use this in the future, I will probably try to remember to put it on before foundation, just so that I don't have to do that kind of repair work. Okay, a couple of coats of Make Beauty Lash Prototype Mascara, and we're done, and I'm really happy with this eye look. The thing that I'm looking forward to, though, is wearing only the topper, or the sparkly one, in a more casual way, not quite as dark, like not building it up quite as dark as it is here, kind of daily, like just a swipe of that buffed out. I'll try it on my hand actually. More like that, you know, like really, really just a pale sheen of that brown all over my lids. Something that I feel like works better, just like that. Something that I feel like works better just for every day. It kind of reminds me of Urban Decay Space Cowboy, but without the blue. And that's like my dream. That wet Vaseline shine, but without the blue that Space Cowboy has in it. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But as it is, because I have what is for me these days like a pretty heavy eye look on now, I'm gonna keep it pretty simple on the rest of the face. I'm glad that it's lip balms that I have to test. I'm just gonna throw on a little bit of the Rhode blush. That's the Rhode blush in the shade sending brushes flying all over my filming space. That's the Rhode blush in the shade Sleepy Girl, and it is the only blush I've used for months. I love it so much. Okay, I'm actually going to zoom you back out a little bit now that we've done the eyeshadow. Should I try to do something with my hair? I'm afraid that if I take it down, it'll make it worse, although I don't know if it could possibly be worse. That maybe makes a little more sense with the eyes, but I don't know. I didn't heat style my hair the last time I washed it, and that was a mistake. But let's get into these lip balms. I'm going to take off the remnants of the one that's there. Moment of truth for vanilla. Yeah, it's got the same issue, just oil. Let me see if I can show you. I don't know if you could see that because it's like oil came out and then the pigment sort of followed a little bit after that. It just needs to be massaged a little bit. Is this what it's like when you get the full size one of these? I once had one and I don't remember this issue. I feel like I need to wipe away some of the oil. Okay, so I wiped away the oil and now it's coming out just normal. A slightly milky balm, again with that vanilla flavor. Here's iced coffee, which I remember admiring in New Makeup Hot Takes, or I remember admiring the advertising. Okay, this one, it's not separated. It's not oil that's coming out. It smells and tastes like coffee. It smells and tastes like coffee ice cream. It's like a very sweet, authentic smelling coffee, and I like it. I don't really like coffee scents in this type of thing, but this is very well done. The color is so subtle. I'm really having a hard time seeing the difference. I mean, I think this is slightly more of like an orangey warm brown, but I don't usually like this kind of brown, this like orangey brown, and the color is so light, the pigment is so light that it doesn't matter. Like it looks fine. And lastly, brown sugar. This is the one that I'm the most excited about. And it also came out just fine. No oil. Okay, this is far and away my favorite one. This is the best one. I like the color. I love the level of sheerness of this color. It's like this sort of burgundy plum brown, but it's very lightly tinted. It's not overwhelming. The color is present. I feel like with the others, the color isn't even present because it's so lightly pigmented. But this one, the color is rich enough that it's still a little bit present, but subtle enough that it's just like my lips, but better and could go with any makeup look. The flavor of this one is more of like a burnt marshmallow instead of vanilla or coffee, and I like it the best of all of them. The joke is 100% on me because I wish I had a full size of this instead of these minis. I thought that it was a smart choice. I thought that it was going to be like the one exception to my rule where I wouldn't mind that they're so small and dinky because it would be better to have multiple ones of them scattered around. But especially because two of them had that oil issue where it was like just oil coming out, and it feels like by the time I squeeze out the oil and wipe it off and mix it up, like half the product's gone. And I also wonder if the oil issue is a function of having them be so tiny somehow, if there's something about there not being enough product in there for it to like stay mixed. I don't know, I'm just making this up, but it does feel like minis always have issues. You know what I mean? Like minis are never just a little smaller amount of the product. There's always an issue with only having a tiny bit that's like a packaging or functionality issue. And I thought that these might escape that blight, but they, I think, haven't. They just feel lower value. They feel like samples. They feel like something you get with your Sephora points. Before I opened the box, I was like, oh, it was just $25 for 4, which is a way better deal than like buying the full-size ones. And now that I've opened the box and they're so small and they're not satisfying, and inevitably there's one color that I like more than the rest, you know? So every time I find one of these in a bag, I'm going to be like, oh, I wish it was this one, unless it's this one. And then this one will get used up really quickly because it's so tiny. This is actually a great case study. Case in point, this is why I don't buy sets, and this is why I don't buy minis. I wish I could just go and trade this for one full size or even 2. I don't know how much they cost to buy a full size, but a full size of brown sugar is what I actually want. And I learned that by buying this set of minis for $25. I will probably give the coffee one away to my cousin, reluctantly use these two when I need something and they're all I can find, and cherish this one until it's gone. All of that said, I'm very happy with how the look came out. It's very my face, but dressed up quite a bit. The colors are what I love. I feel like this eye look is my favorite forever and ever. Past, present, and future. I love this like plum leaning brown for holiday. Like I feel like this is holiday colors as well, but it's natural and the skin is natural, and I'm really into this. Like this is my favorite way to do heavy makeup these days. And so I feel like I made good choices, especially as a reviewer, right? Being able to report back about the merit, brow pencil, being able to learn my lesson here on camera in real time about minis. They got me, gal. Sephora tricked me again. Even after all this time, even after all I've learned, they tricked me again. But now I know, and I can tell you. So each one of those, the brow pencil and the lip balm minis, was kind of like a slightly off choice in the service of being able to review, you know? But the Patrick Ta eyeshadow knocked it out of the park for me. Like that is something I got to review, and I really felt like I was getting it just for review, and now it's like for me and me alone. And I really love it. So that's it. I accidentally didn't skip the Sephora sale. I got up to the register and I saved like $20 or something. But, you know, as I've always said, it's like I wouldn't have been saving $20 if I had bought stuff that I wouldn't otherwise. If I had just gone to Sephora because it was a sale, you know, if I'd been like, I'm going to shop the sale, and then I had gone and bought stuff that I would otherwise have not gotten if I'd stayed home, then I would not have saved $20. I would have spent $80 that I wouldn't have otherwise have spent, you know? So that's the case. But it was funny to get up there and be like, oh, saving $20 on these products that I would have gotten for review anyway because of going to have lunch with Stephanie anyway. So, oh my gosh, I completely forgot to narrate the rest of the journey. I cannot believe I forgot to narrate the rest of the journey. I just got carried away with the makeup, but there's so many things I had to report back on. I smelled, this is the rest of what happened at Sephora. I smelled Glacier Eau de, which is the woody one. And it smelled just like liquid smoke. The version of liquid smoke is like a fake smoke taste that you put into food. It's like drops of fake smoke flavor. It smelled like the perfume version of that, like fake wood smell. I've smelled perfumes before that have that scent in it, and I like wood smell, but it was just a little bit too like middle of the road liquid smoke smell for me. I liked how I smelled the rest of the day, but it didn't make me want to go back and buy the bottle. That happened when I realized they didn't have the the REFY concealer. Stephanie was like, oh, you should try the one from Westman Atelier because she really loves that one. And I was like, I don't know, Westman Atelier, they don't usually go light enough for me. So I went and swatched the lightest and it was laughably dark on me. So I have pictures of that. I saw the Prada primer and my friends, it is not green. It was like green primer, green powder. I was shocked when I squeezed it out. It's just a clear silicone primer with a green tint, but like very, very faint. It's not color correcting at all. It is green in color a little bit, very light, but it's totally transparent. I'm so glad I didn't buy that for a review. It's not a color correcting product. And then lastly, Stephanie was like, have you seen these? And it was those Gucci highlighters that I besmirched in New Makeup Hot Takes. I was like, it says it's cream to powder, but it's probably just a powder. And they're saying it's a cream to allure the people who are over powder highlighters. But it's not. And you can even see in the pictures, it's a putty. What it's exactly like is the old Stila Heaven's Hue or Heaven's Glow putty highlight. It's exactly like that. It is admittedly incredibly glossy and shiny. And when Stephanie and I were swatching them under the Sephora lights, I was like, I want one of these, but there isn't a shade for me. The bronze, the champagne bronze is too dark. The gold is too gold. And the two lighter colors are like iridescent color shifting white to pink and pink to purple, and I just didn't want any of them. So that was the rest of the Sephora adventure. I was going to artfully weave that tail throughout. I totally failed to do that. So now the video's over and I'm leaving. That's my Sephora haul. That's my Sephora sale haul. The big one, the scandal. I appreciate you for being here with me. I hope you enjoyed this little video, and I really hope you're taking extra good care of yourself, my friends, so that you can be the most effective versions of yourselves as you do your work in the world.